Learn some post-production. Make your images more stunning. Welcome to the Image Post-Production Enhancement class. The layer mask is a crucial tool for image compositing. It lets us cover parts of an image without ever damaging the original, and we can revise it any time. A mask acts like a safety gate behind a layer, controlling what appears and what disappears. Next, we'll get to know masks through a few practical examples. Let's look at this example. Here we have two layers, fruit and a plate. Our goal is to place the fruit inside the plate. First, select the fruit layer, then click the circle inside a square icon at the bottom of the panel. This adds a layer mask, creating a white thumbnail next to the layer. In a mask, white means the layer is visible. Black means it's hidden. For instance, if I press Ctrl+I to invert the mask, it turns black and the fruit vanishes. Now I'll locally alter the mask so the fruit looks like it's sitting in the plate. Returning to the white mask, I'll use a black brush to paint over the lower part of the fruit, creating the illusion that it's inside the plate. What I'm actually painting on is the mask itself. Notice black strokes appear on the mask, hiding part of the fruit. Remember the shortcuts we mentioned earlier? Hold Alt and drag to resize the brush, letting us refine the edge where the fruit meets the plate. We can keep adjusting the brush size as needed. We can also zoom in pressing Ctrl+J. Hold the spacebar to pan around. Erase unwanted areas, and keep tweaking the brush size. If we accidentally erase too much fruit, switch the brush from black to white. Painting with white brings those pixels back. During the process, toggle between black and white quickly by pressing X. Switching colors helps us define visible and hidden areas precisely. Then zoom out. Check the result after these erasures. The fruit now sits inside the plate. A handy rule to remember. Black reveals, white conceals. Gray gives partial transparency. In other words, black on the mask makes the image transparent. White keeps it fully opaque. Gray produces semi-transparency. Alright, let's look at another example. This is a landscape photo. I want to give it an ink wash style and confine the scenery inside an ink splash shape beneath it. First, add a layer mask to the landscape layer. Invert the mask with Ctrl+I, turning it black. Now, with a white brush, I paint over the ink splash. Watch how the landscape appears only where I brush. However, the edges aren't precise. The result is intuitive but lacks refinement. Let's raise the bar and create smoother ink gradients. How do we do that? First, copy the ink splash layer below. Press Ctrl+A to select all. Then Ctrl+C to copy. Go back to the landscape mask, hold Alt, and click the mask thumbnail to enter it. Remember, Alt-click opens the mask for editing. Now press Ctrl+V to paste. The ink splash is now embedded as the mask itself. Turn off the original ink layer below. Notice the mask shows the splash in white. Why? The values are inverted, so press Ctrl+I inside the mask to reverse them. Now the landscape appears perfectly within the ink splash. Observe how crisp the edges have become. Let's clarify a few more key points about layer masks. First, note the small chain icon between the layer and its mask. If we hold Ctrl and drag the layer, the mask moves with it. Undo that. Now click the chain to unlink them. When we move the mask alone, the background stays put. This lets us reposition the mask to frame the scenery exactly where we want. We can also rotate or scale the mask to better fit the artistic intent. Press Enter to confirm. Now the ink wash effect is complete. Let's add a background layer. Import a texture. Resize and position it. Then confirm. Set its blend mode to darken so it merges with the layers below. However, the landscape colors still feel too vivid. At this point, we can add a hue saturation adjustment layer and reduce the saturation to achieve a more unified color tone. We can also insert a photo filter for cool tones, creating a more harmonious atmosphere. Overall, the composition now looks cohesive and aesthetically pleasing. Second key point, a mask only controls pixel visibility. It never deletes actual pixels. If part of the image seems missing, simply paint white on the mask. The black areas turn white, revealing the original pixels intact. Right-click the mask to disable it, or toggle visibility on or off quickly by holding Shift and clicking the mask thumbnail. That concludes our introduction to layer masks. Grab some images and start experimenting.